I think all of us come across that time in our lives when we have to make a decision, yes or no. And sometimes the opportunity is blind. It's just, do you want to do it or don't you? And you don't know. And so you say yes or no. Say yes. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about going into opportunities blind and seeing what comes around the other side with Colleen Rice next.
This is A Dash of Grit. Recipes for success from courageous leaders who overcome challenges and build great things. Now, podcasting from Spire to leaders in local communities like yours, here is Brian Leflock.
And let's get cooking. So we're talking about grit and we're talking about success. And sometimes, all times, in order to have real success, you need good leadership. And too often people don't understand what it takes to be a good leader, whether they can be a good leader, whether they shouldn't be a leader. And I think all of that goes into where we fall when we're trying to figure out how much grit we need to show to be successful. And so we're going to talk about that today, talk about how to make good leaders and what it takes to be a good leader and how to show grit while you're doing it with our guest on Dash of Grit today. It's the executive director. She is the executive director of Leadership Medina County. Welcome to Dash of Grit, Colleen Rice.
Thank you so much, Brian.
I'm really glad you're on the show. You and I have met and had a chance to talk a little bit, but I have a feeling I'm going to find out a million things that I didn't know before. I'm interested in leadership, and you know that, and I think our audience is too. We all think we're leaders. We all think we have a place to go. I don't think we all know how to get there, and so I'm excited to talk about that today.
Right, me too.
So tell me a little bit about, before we talk about the hurdles that people overcome and things that you've overcome along your path, tell me about the good stuff. Let's talk about success. Tell me about Leadership Medina and things you're really proud about accomplishing in your role.
Well, I've been in my role here for 8 years at Leadership Medina County, and we focus on digging deep into community leadership. Our goal is to educate our leaders, connect them, and involve them in their communities. We know that it's important to love your community, but if you really love your community and you want to make a difference, you're going to learn about it. You're going to learn about yourself, and then you're going to learn about how you can plug yourself in.
And why does that matter? Leadership is just, I see a goal, hit a goal, bring people along. There's all kinds of things. You're talking about community and understanding things. Where does that fall into place?
Yeah, community leadership is a little bit different than just plain old leadership. It's being willing to learn beyond yourself, learn about others, learn about how the community works and how the fabric is interwoven within our community. Where's the snags? Where are the tears? Where are the places that we've made repairs in our community? And what is it going to look like moving up forward? How much longer can it bear different burdens within the community or being stretched beyond its means? And what kind of solutions are out there? And we know that having a diverse group of leaders coming together, they can come up with some pretty interesting solutions for our community. They can take on leadership roles, whether it be in the government or in the nonprofit arena, or even come up with solutions in the for-profit arena, creating jobs and other solutions that way. So we know that when we introduce those people to each other and there's connections being made and people are willing to be curious to learn about themselves, learn about the community, and learn about the other people that live and work there, that's when change can happen that makes a community better.
So in your mind, then, leadership isn't just getting something done. It's actually knowing what to do and how to lead a team towards what needs to happen. Do you think people see it that way, or is that part of your job to help educate folks about not just getting it done as a leader, but knowing where the opportunities lie?
I think definitely it's our opportunity to kind of change the lens for people, to help them see things from a different perspective. I'm not here to change anybody's mind, and neither is Leadership Medina County, but we do want to open up people to see things from other people's perspectives. For example, I took my grandmother to her high school reunion. It was her 70th high school reunion. So we traveled down to West Virginia. And on the way, she said, I'd really like to find my family farm where I used to live. Well, I don't know about you, but, looking at West Virginia hills, they've changed a little bit over 70 years. And so things didn't quite look the same. And we're traveling up and down these winding roads. Finally, we stop at a place and we're looking over the landscape, don't see anything. But we're invited over to a neighbor's house. And he has us come up on his deck and we say, hey, do you know about this rock that my grandmother's looking for? And she describes this rock. And he says, you mean the one over there? So just by changing perspective and getting up on his porch and seeing things from a different perspective, It helped us find what she was looking for. And as leaders, sometimes we do have to just go to a different perspective. And sometimes that means maybe moving to a different place to see things in a different way, maybe taking a tour of a location to see it in its reality and what it is. It's one thing to hear about something. It's another thing to see something. So we like to change the perspectives for people.
And by changing those perspectives, this show is about grit. What hurdles, not you personally, I want to talk about that in a second, but I'm interested in leadership. Medina, what have you been able to change in your time there? What is the hardest part about communicating what you do to others so that you can generate the results that you're looking for from your program?
Yeah, most people who come through our program think it's amazing and wonderful. And then the rest of the people who haven't gone through it wonder what kind of Kool-Aid people are drinking. It is hard to kind of get across what we're doing and why it's important. To some people, it may just seem like a bunch of field trips or a bunch of leadership information that maybe they already knew. Or maybe they feel like they've lived in the community for a long time and they don't have that need to learn about the community in that way because they already feel well-versed. I was surprised so many times over the last 8 years, and even during my time that I was a class member in Leadership Medina County in 2008, of how many times people have come up to me and said, gosh, I thought I knew everything in our community and I still learned something. And I learned something from the other people around me. So I think that's a challenge of not just being thought of as some sort of field trip group or another service group per se. But I look at us as connectors. And that's really what I want to be known for is Leadership Medina County connecting people to opportunities in the community, opportunities to serve, opportunities to share their time, their treasures, their talents within their community.
So let's talk about leadership. And Colleen, let's talk about you. I'm interested in this show is inspiring to others who are either currently going through issues or struggles or hurdles or have in the past. I have this image, Colleen, so that you know what I'm trying to do here. I have this image of somebody sitting in their house wishing that they had their business figured out and their organization figured out and wishing they were becoming something that they saw themselves being and looking across the street. And there's Mr. Jones, and he's got the perfect house and the perfect car and the perfect, 1.5 dogs, and everything's fine. And you sit there and go, why can't it be so simple for me? And it's just not. And I hope that people listen to this show and realize that they're not in this alone. And I'm interested from your perspective, what have you gone through personally or along your career path that it hasn't been so easy, that caused you to have to kind of show some grit along the way?
Yeah, I agree. Everybody's journey is different. You should never look at your neighbor because you don't know what their journey looks like and you don't know what's ahead on your journey either. I think that, if you focus on relationships, you can achieve anything. Relationships, true relationships where you're, ready to be authentic. And I think, those are things that I've learned throughout my journey here in Medina County, but also it started after getting my degree in psychology and not really knowing what I wanted to do. I wasn't sure where to go, what to do, what I was going to do with this. Did I need to go get a master's degree? All kinds of things. And so I ended up interviewing for a job to teach English in South Korea. And I was single and I didn't have any ties here to Ohio. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to go do this. And so I traveled to South Korea and I taught there. I was the only English speaker in the city that was, English as my first language speaker. And I taught from kindergarten all the way up through adults. And so it was a real interesting stretch for me to be able to work with so many different age groups. And then people who had different customs, different backgrounds than I did. And it was such an opportunity for me to get to know who Colleen was. And I think that's really the first step. If you're going to start a journey, you have to know who you are. And I was still pretty young and I needed to know who I was. And that first start there really helped me kick off everything else I did after that. because nothing was as hard as that. After getting back and doing that, nothing was as hard as learning how to operate in South Korea, learning what was okay and what wasn't okay, and understanding the culture and finding my place there.
And what were the things that taught you who you were? I want to find out a little bit more about who you are, but what were the things that happened that kind of were grit points that you really had to overcome in that situation?
Yeah, the working ethic was much different there than here. I mean, they work very hard and they study very hard. So when I had these students, I had them in the afternoon. And in the morning, they went to school all day long. And then they would continue with this supplemental school in the evening for all different subjects, not just with me, but with other people. And so I went to a school, and learning about that culture and how they don't show emotions out. I'm a very emotional person.
Okay.
So it was hard for me not to show all the emotions that I typically show. If I'm sad, sometimes I might cry. Well, you don't do that there. You don't cry in public, and there's different things like that. The food was different. The first day I arrived, I thought, what have I done? They handed me what they said was water, and it was brown. And I didn't know what to think of that. Of course, I had been vaccinated and everything. And so I went ahead and drank it, and I took the plunge, which was good because it was just tea. It was just tea. and they call it water there. That's what they call water because they boil it, so it's safe to drink. But just kind of getting across those cultural things and understanding that, one thing that really helped me get to know myself a lot was getting involved with the church there. I had been involved in church back at home, but getting plugged into a church there was really good. There was a United Methodist Church local there that I could easily get to, and the pastor spoke in English to me. Yeah. And so, having that connection there was really, really helpful. And then just, spending time with the students. We would go out for coffee and study all kinds of things outside of work and explore parks and the nature and the beauty in that area. And I had to get around on my own too. I didn't have a car. They had a lot of public transportation. That was different than Medina County. In Medina County, you couldn't just hop on a bus somewhere. So I kind of learned a lot about just transporting myself, staying safe since I was by myself over there. I forgot the most important story. When I arrived, I was supposed to be trained by another young guy who was teaching out there, and he was from the same school as I was. And I had talked to his father before I left, and he was going to be there and greet me and train me as soon as I arrived. And when I arrived, I was pretty sleepy because it was a 17-hour flight. And so I got some rest. And when I woke up the next day, they told me that he had eloped with a Korean girl.
Oh, no.
And they had no idea where he was.
Oh, great.
and instead of getting a training period, which I was really looking forward to, of kind of knowing what on earth I was supposed to do, that was thrown right in because they needed me to teach right away.
Yeah.
So...
And you did just fine. Now, I'm interested in what was going through your mind. You first of all, are you glad you did it? Would you change if you had the chance to do it again? Would you say yes again?
Absolutely. So, I learned how to be independent there, but also to depend on other people in a way I hadn't expected.
But things didn't go as you planned. In fact, it wasn't even part of your plan to leave school and do that. And now you get there and everything kind of seems sideways, and they're offering you brown water and nothing's working.
Yeah.
You took the chance. Did you ever think about backing out?
No. It was a great opportunity to grow and stretch, and there were hard times that sometimes I thought about going home.
That's what I'm wondering. Sure. Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. What was that like?
One time I got really sick, and I, wasn't sure what to do. Nothing was working to take my fever down. I had my own medicines and everything with me, and fortunately I got through it. But there were things like that were a little bit scary of just kind of really being on your own. It was not like my my parents are in another state away or something. I was really on my own. And so I had to take care of myself and make sure that I got the care and the assistance I needed. So sometimes that was hard. I mean, fortunately, I was able to write letters and email people. There was Hotmail back then. And so I was on Hotmail and that helped. And there was a university nearby where I could use computers. So that was a really nice thing that happened to me, and a lot of good connections, again, relationship building with people that wanted to get to know me and learn English.
And at some point, things started to turn around where you probably became good at what you were doing. Tell me about that. How did you realize that, hey, wait a minute, this is starting to click?
Yeah. The adult class especially started growing for me. They loved practicing English with me and learning some of the funny ways that we say things that you can't just learn from a book in Korea. So they really, really loved that. And I could tell that I had a niche more with adult learners than with children, although I kept, teaching the children because that was my job. But definitely I connected better with the adults throughout the programs. And so I learned that about myself, that, whatever I was going to do when I came back here to the States, it was going to be more with adults than with children on that end. And, I stretched myself a lot. I left my silverware in my luggage. So I ended up never taking out my fork and my knife and my spoon. And I used the chopsticks the whole time while I was there.
See?
And so, so that was really good too, of just, eating the way they do, with crossed legs. I got through a lot of legs falling asleep and all kinds of different things, because I'm just not used to sitting that way. And, really kind of toughened up and walked a lot more, and really enjoyed everything that they had to offer there, from, being on the East Coast of where the Sea of Japan was, to the mountainsides, to donuts that I thought had chocolate in them, but it was bean curd. And so, you get through those things and, and you appreciate them and enjoy them.
And so right now, business owners and community leaders are listening, and they have a hurdle in front of them that they're trying to decide. Should I jump in or should I say no? Should I take this opportunity? Should I pass? What did you learn about leadership in that situation that you'd like to share with someone who's kind of thinking about the options that they have? And it's not always easy, right? There's not a big billboard saying, do this, You made a decision. What did you learn that you can share with our folks?
Well, I jumped into this situation, and I think that once you jump in, you've got to give it a chance. Sometimes people jump in and then they just climb right back out and they say, I'm done with that. And they haven't really given it a chance. I had to give the people around me a chance. I had to, give the school I was at a chance, and give myself a chance to acclimate to it too. And you have to be willing to be curious enough that you take the time to really listen and learn and see your surroundings when you jump in, and not so quickly dismiss them, because sometimes when you jump out, the only thing you're looking at is yourself, and you're not really looking at everything else around you and the opportunities that might lie there. There may be opportunities where you just have to jump out, for sure. If there's a safety issue, if there had ever been a safety issue for me over there, I would have left or done something else to protect myself, for sure. But, when there's not, take that time to really, look around, and what are the opportunities? What are the relationships you can build there? I'm still in communication with people over there in South Korea, and that was all the way back in 1997. Yeah, and those are going to be friends for a lifetime for me.
And it brings us full circle, because we started talking about leadership, and of course, I'm just pulling forward always, motivating, getting things done and everything. But you're like, stop, get to know, understand, build relationships. That's how you can learn. Do you feel like a lot that you learned in Korea is being played out in the way you direct leadership in Medina County?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Relationships are still just as important. I mentioned that a lot at the beginning. I feel like I'm a little bit of a broken record with it, but I think it is one of the most important things that can build a community. And it's one of the most important things that leaders can take time to invest themselves in.
Yeah. And so what's next for Leadership Medina County? I know we talked about communicating who you are and what you stand for and trying to get folks to understand what you're trying to do, but there's going to be hurdles along the way, and I'm sure you have goals and things you're trying to achieve. Mm-hmm. Where will you need to show grit next as you accomplish what you've set out to do?
I think anytime that we take on a hot topic in the community, which is something we try to talk about, top issues, hot topics, anytime we're gathering people and we're a convener for those kinds of conversations, you got to have a little bit of grit for that. And you have to be willing to bring in both sides so that people can hear, what the different thoughts and the different opinions and the different experiences are out there, so that we can be, kind to each other and respectful and have those difficult conversations where we may not agree on everything, but there are usually always is a common thread you can find. So we're always looking, through that. What's the common thread? What brings us together? What are the things that we can agree about? And one of those things is we love Medina County.
And I think love for the county and knowing what you're trying to accomplish for the county and knowing what you're trying to accomplish for the business goes together, though. And that's what I like about the way you teach things. It's not just about business. It's not just about personal leadership. It's about what can we do for each other. And that's a whole different level of leadership that I'm looking forward to learning more about. So thank you for sharing that information. If someone wanted to reach out to you to find out more about you, your experiences, or even Leadership Medina County, how would they get in touch with you?
They can email me at Colleen@leadershipmedinacounty.org or give me a call at 330-721-7118 extension 1.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing that, Colleen. A quick break just to tell you who I work for and what we're all about at Spire. We are a marketing company that helps small and medium-sized businesses grow. If you are an owner or a marketing director and trying to reach the next level and hitting your head against that proverbial revenue ceiling, growth ceiling, let us know. We can help you. We can help you level up your team. We can help you with strategy, branding, things of that sort. So we're happy to help. If you'd like, I am Brian Lefelock. You'll find me on the Spire Advertising website and, of course, right here at the Dash of Grit podcast. Thank you to Colleen Rice, who has been a great guest for us, the Executive Director of Leadership Medina County. You're doing great things, and I think as you continue to do those great things and continue to send out people into the community to make a difference, you're making your mark right here where you live, and I really do appreciate all that you're doing.
Thank you, Brian, for having me.
This is Dash of Grit. We do this once a week. You can find us wherever you find your podcast. We're also on LinkedIn and maybe even some cable channels. So check your local access channels and see if we're there. Until next week, stay gritty and remember the recipe for success always includes a dash of grit. See you next time.
This is a Dash of Grit. Recipes for success from courageous leaders who overcome challenges and build great things.